Yes, our dear learners and viewers, you're most welcome to this session. This is Teacher Robert from Light Academy Nursery and Primary School. I'm here once again to present a lesson in Primary 5 Mathematics. It's a continuation of the previous topic or the previous session about factors. In my previous session, I talked about factors of numbers. But in this lesson, I want to use the factors of numbers we saw in the previous lesson to talk about these two words here. They are not new words, you've met them before in primary form, but I want to add just a few things in what we're just going to learn more about them in primary 5. So I want to talk about what we are calling the lowest common factor, or the LCF, and the greatest common factor, or the DCF, or the highest common factor, which we write in short as the HCF. These are two words, you've seen them before. But before we go to understand them more, we talked about factors in the previous session, and we said a factor is that number, is that counting number which divides up a certain given number and does not give any remainder. So a factor is a number which can exactly divide the other number which is given to give an answer without a remainder. So we're just going to refer to that session and use it to answer questions concerning the LCF and the greatest common factor. So let me start from the lowest common factor. I will start from the lowest common factor. Lowest common factor, which we call the LCF. We might ask ourselves, what is meant by LCF? In most of the cases, people don't teach about this, but I want us to understand it first before we go to what we call the greatest common factor, because this is the opposite of the greatest common factor. In the lowest common factor, when we talk about the lowest common factor, it is a comparison. We are comparing the numbers. They can be 2, they can be 3, they can be 4, and very many others. But what we need to understand is that the lowest common factor is a comparison of either 2 or more numbers, where we get their respective factors and pick out the smallest factor from their respective factors. For example, we can look at this. We can have this one here. Example. Let me just use this one. They say find the LCF of 4 and 8. Our dear learners, in this question, the example says find the LCF of 4 and 8. We have already said that LCF means lowest common factor. But I've already said when we talk about the LCF, we are comparing the factors of either 2 or more numbers. Then from the sets of their factors, we shall actually pick out the smallest number from their factors. So in the first place, using the previous method of P4, we shall first go and get the factors of 4. Then we shall as well go and get the factors of 8. Then we shall compare their factors. We can have this one and say, remember in the previous session, we said if I say factors of 4, I can write it in short as F4, meaning the factors of 4. How do I get them? I say at this level of P5, we must be in position to tell the pairs of numbers that when you multiply two numbers, the answer you get becomes 4. So those two numbers become factors of 4. So in the first place, I will just say the first two numbers that I can multiply to get 4 as the product are 1 and 4. When I say 1 times 4 or 1 multiplied by 4, the answer I get is 4. So both the two numbers 1 and 4 become factors of 4. Then the other pair can be 2 multiplied by 2. The answer gotten is still a 4. Meaning 2 times what I get is 4. So these are similar numbers, 2 and 2. So 2 is a factor of 4 because it can divide 4 without giving a remainder. So when I check the multiplication tables, I cannot find any other pair that can be multiplied and you get the answer as 4. Therefore, the factors of 4 shall be equal to, I can put them in these brackets. The first factor is 1, the next one is 2, don't repeat it 2, then the next one is 4. So these are factors of 4, right? We can also go on the other side, you can use this side work, and say factors of 8, which I've written as F8. We are just getting the pairs of numbers that when you multiply them, the product you get is 8. Look at the multiplication tables you looked at in primary 4. Give out some pairs of numbers such that when you multiply them, the answer you get is 8. Obviously, the first one is 1 times 8. The answer gotten is 8. Therefore, 1 and 8, both of them are factors of 8. They can divide 8 without giving a remainder. The next pair is 2 multiplied by 4. The answer gotten is 8. So 2 and 4 are factors of 8. They can divide, each one of them can divide 8 without giving a remainder. So when I refer to my multiplication tables of P4, I'm able to say that I cannot get any other pair that can be multiplied and the answer I get is 8. Therefore, the factors of 8 are, we can list them in this set and say the first one is 1, separate them using commas. The next one is 2, the next one is 4, and the next one is 8. Okay? So from what we've done just above here, we've listed the factors of 4. We have also listed the factors of 8. But remember, the LCF tells us to get the lowest common factor. So some other people can go and first sort out the common factors. When I look at the factors of 4, the numbers which appear in the set of factors of 4 are, and in the set of factors of 8 are, I'm having 1 appearing in both the factors of 4 and factors of 8. I'm having 2. Then I'm also having 2 in both sets. Okay? So under the common factors, so I can say common factors of 4 and 8 shall be equal to, I can separate them. I'm having 1 appearing in both sets. I'm also having 2 appearing in both sets. Okay? But from these common factors, between the factors of 4 and 8, the LCF tells us to get the smallest common number. So from these common factors I've just written, the smallest one is 1. Therefore, we shall be able to say that the LCF of 4 and 8 is equal to 1. That shall be the answer, LCF. Therefore, this one makes me give a conclusion. I wanted to first have this example, then I make a conclusion. So when we talk about the lowest common factor of numbers, they can be 2, they can be 3, they can be 4, and very many others, according to what the examiner wants to set. But the point is, the lowest common factor, or the fact is, the lowest common factor of either 2 numbers or 3 numbers and very many others is always 1. So the LCF of any numbers given is always 1. I can even put this one as a note. You can say note. This is very important. It is one factor, a fact about LCF. The LCF of any numbers given of 2 or more numbers given is always 1. That is a fact about what we are calling LCF, or the lowest common factor. We are saying the LCF of 2 or more numbers given is always 1. We have just worked it out using the example above. So I think you can be in position to answer other questions asking you to find the LCF. Right? That is that about LCF. I also want to talk about the lowest common, the greatest common factor. You can say, you can share something concerning greatest common factor, or at times we call it GCF. In some other questions they write it as HCF, meaning highest common factor. So this is just the opposite of what we are calling the LCF. The greatest common factor is a comparison between either two numbers or amongst more than two numbers. You just compare the factors of either two numbers or more numbers and find out the biggest common number from their corresponding list of the factors. For example, we can talk about this. We can have some examples here. We can have these examples. The first one says 1. Find the GCF. I've said GCF is the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor of 10. Probably, let me use 10. Let me use 8. And 16. Let me use this one here. I've just used the two numbers. They're saying find the GCF of 8 and 16. What does this question need us to do? In this question, we are supposed to get the factors of 8. We are also supposed to get the factors of 16. Then we shall compare the list of their factors and pick out the biggest number. Okay? But for this purpose, since this is primary 5, I just want us to use the ladder and get the greatest common factor. I talked about the ladder when I was talking about the LCM. So the ladder is an arrangement of writing numbers under columns. So these are two numbers, so I'm just going to draw two columns in here. They're just two columns. I put these given numbers. I put the given numbers. The first number is 8. The next one is 16. These are the two numbers that they have given me. So to get their GCF, what am I supposed to do? When we are using the ladder to get a GCF, you look at the two numbers given and choose out one counting number which can divide them at the same time without giving a remainder. Don't use 1, because when you use 1, you will keep the same numbers. So since 8 and 16 are both even numbers, the smallest number which can share them equally or which can divide them without a remainder is 2. Okay? Then you ask yourself, how many 2's can I get from 8? Meaning, when I divide 8 by 2, what do I get? The answer I get is a 4. Then you go the other side and say, how many 2's can I get from 16? Meaning, 16 divided by 2, what happens? Each one gets 8. You go to that step. The answer I've gotten on the next step are 4 and 8. Compare both of them. Which number can share them without a remainder? So since both of them are also even numbers, the number which can divide them without a remainder is 2. Ask yourself, when you divide 4 by 2, what happens? Each one takes a 2, right? Then you got 8. When you divide 8 by 2, the answer you get is 4, right? The third step, this is the second step I meant. The second step has given us the answers as 2 and 4. Then you ask yourself, can I get a common number to share these two numbers? Yes, still they are even numbers, meaning I can divide both of them using the 2, such that I can say 2 divided by 2, the answer is 1. Then the other side, I'm having 4 divided by 2, the answer I get is 2. So our dear learners, at this step, you don't need to go on and divide them completely. Okay? You just stop at this, then you multiply the numbers used to divide. So we shall simply come and say, this is 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2. Pair these numbers. When I multiply 2 by 2, the answer is 4 multiplied by the other 2. So I will be in position to get the answer as 8. Therefore, the DCF, you can conclude and say DCF of 8 and 16 shall be equal to 8. So our dear learners, this is how we get the DCF of numbers. But just like I said, they can give 2 numbers or 3 numbers or 4 numbers and more. But my concern was to start from 2 numbers. However, because of time, I want us to go and also try out this number here, number 2. I'm just going to give 2, 3 numbers. Work out the HCF. Let me use now HCF. Remember, we said HCF means the highest common factor. Work out the HCF of, I can say 10, 12, and probably 6. I just want us to use these 3 numbers, 10, 12, and 6. Then you get their highest common factor or the greatest common factor we are calling HCF. You will be in position to try it out during your time. However, at the end of the lesson, you expected actually to answer some questions that I'm going to write as activity. Thank you so much. Yes, at the end of this lesson, just like I've said, this is the activity we are going to answer about the LCF and the DCF or the HCF. You'll be in position to answer the questions. In case of anything, at least you can reach me on my contact. Thank you so much for your attention. Hope you'll enjoy the lesson. Stay home, stay safe, and wash your hands. Teacher Robert from Light Academy. Check on our YouTube, school YouTube and website for more of this work. Thank you so much.